Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we're going to do an updated character guide on Auron. So Auron just dropped with his BTFR. If you're not familiar with him, he is a cover tank that does counter damage. These types of characters are very valuable in the game. They are really good characters to invest in. They have a lot of longevity. They can really help you with tough content. These characters kind of specialize in dealing a lot of like smaller off-turn damage over time rather than doing like really big insane on-turn damage. So just keep in mind, if you like that type of playstyle, this is definitely a good character for that. I do recommend, whether you're a fan of tanks or not, that every player have at least one really good tank in their box. It's just they sometimes will design fights around having a tank, and you just want to make sure you have one. Now, if you already have a character like Beatrix or Rubicante, these are also very good modern tank characters that have Echo. Zack even is like a good tank that has Echo, Warrior of Light. So there are lots of like Echo tank options out there. It just depends on what you have, but I do really like Auron. I think he is a great option, right? So in this video, we're going to look at his calls, his artifacts, and his spheres, and we're going to take a look at how he's looking now after these upgrades, because we did get him a little bit later than expected, but I think they knew they could get away with that with Auron because of the type of character he is, right? So let's go ahead and start with the calls here. I think his calls are okay, but I don't see myself using them a lot. The 15 call, the big thing is like one of Auron's unique things is he does a melee resist down. So it's a melee imperil. So any melee damage dealers will get weakness damage even without an element, right? So there are some characters in the game that do weapon weakness damage, and Auron is one of them for melee damage, right? So the 15 will just put the melee resist down, and then the LD will also put the melee resist down, and then a debuff called full break. Now this full break debuff is really good. It's just they really kind of gimped it for the call. They like brought down the numbers. Normally this is like a HP damage 30% up, which is like ridiculously good, right? Melee brave damage taken up by 40%, and then brave and HP damage minus 30% on the enemies. Like they deal that much less, but on the call, the HP damage goes down from 30% to only 5, and the melee brave damage taken goes from 40 down to 20. So it's not nearly as good. So it does have a little HP damage on there, and you are getting the melee imperil. So I would say it's solid, but definitely not like a crazy call that you're going to want to use a ton, right? So with that, let's look at Auron himself and see how he's looking here, right? So let's start with artifacts. Auron is a little bit of an older character. He doesn't have like one of the crazy like C50 2-star passives. You would want to go a couple of routes with this guy. I would say you could just do attack 108, max brave 330, or you could go attack 108, debuff attack up, or kind of do a mix of them both. Being that he is a counter character, attack and brave damage are very important on these types of characters because you want them to get the most damage that they can out of their attacks. If they can't build up brave by doing damage, their counters won't do much. So just really prioritize attack and brave damage as much as possible. Having max brave can be okay as well, but it's up to you. And then we'll go into spheres, which I decked out his spheres like big time. So the A spheres, yes, you would want like attack or brave damage up. Now, some characters you can just do like a weapon type damage up, right? Like a magic dealer, you could do magic attack up. Ranged dealers, you can do ranged attack up. Well, Auron is a melee attacker, and there are some very good physical and melee attack up spheres. And so I decided to kind of go that route with him. I went very heavy on these physical damage spheres. So I have core on there just because I happen to have one. Every time he attacks, he either attacks a broken target or inflicts break. This is going to stack up to 5 times. So this is going to be a physical attack up 15%. And the thing is since Auron is a counter character, he's going to be dealing attacks a lot, and this is going to build up very quickly. So I look at cores as just a 15% physical attack up. Then we have Raijin, which is just straight up a physical 15% up. So with those two spheres on, I'm giving him 30% physical damage up, which is a pretty noticeable number, right? And then his own E slot is very good. On the E slot, you'd want to give him, once again, attack or brave damage. Well, I don't think they have brave damage on E slot, so pretty much just attack, right? So like a Yuffie or an Emperor, like something like that is good. Or his own, because he's also a debuffer, and so when you inflict a debuff, melee attack by 15%. So he's getting essentially like 45% physical damage. Technically, I don't know how the game differentiates between physical damage and melee damage. To me, they're like the same thing, but they have them as two separate stats here. So sure, we'll say 30% physical and 15% melee. I kind of see it as just like I'm giving him 45% physical damage. So I feel like I've given my boy a lot of damage so he can build up that crit damage every time he counters, right? So with that, we'll go ahead and let's hop into the showcase. Now, whenever I showcase a tank, right, or do these character guides, I showcase them very differently. I want to showcase them in an environment where they look really good. So I like to showcase on this Ultimisia fight. So that's what we're going to do here. And what I'm going to do with Auron, because he's meant to be like a slow counter tank character, I think I'm just going to lead with his burst phase. That way I can just go through all the skills, tell you what they all do. And then outside of his burst phase, we'll just let the enemies kind of like kill themselves. So that's kind of the plan here. This fight is very aggressive. The enemies are going to cut turns. They're going to attack us a lot, do all kinds of things. And there's Auron immediately with the counter, right? 185k, not the craziest. And we got Dorgan as well coming in. So let's start to get things set up, and we've got core. So what I've done with Auron here is I've specifically set up like a melee counter team. And the thing you have to be careful is you can't just throw like 3 tanks on a team, because some tanks require that they themselves get hit or that they have to dodge, right? So I can't just do like Galif, Auron, and Gladio, right? Because all 3 of them, like, they need to be hit to do the counter. Now, if the enemy does all attacks, then you're good. They'll all do it. But if you use multiple cover tanks, or like lock tanks, it's not going to work because they're all going to be fighting to get the hits and only one character can. So you have to be creative if you want to do like a full team of tanks or counter damage. You have to find a way that, like, if anybody gets attacked, like, everything can go off. So this is an example of a team where it all works because Auron can cover tank and always take the hits and he's going to counter. Dorgan, anytime anybody breaks, he will counter. And then Core, he'll go off as long as somebody with his Oath of Absolute Defense gets attacked or he gets attacked, like the counters will go off, right? So speaking of that, let's get Oath down on Auron. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. Because I really want to focus on Auron here. What I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to lead with Core's BT effect, I think is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to get Core's BT effect up immediately. And then this way, I can just get Oath on both characters. Because this team's going to be slow, so I just want to get like all my stuff going like as soon as possible, right? And actually what I'll probably do is I did bring in Aerith just to kind of set up. So let's do this. Let's just grab Aerith really quick. And Aerith is just going to full ramp through and just force charge for us. Because the other thing with this team comp is I didn't bring any force charging. So you'll probably notice a lot of people with like good tanks like to just solo runs. And the reason why is other party members actually can hold them back a little bit. Now, the reason I'm not doing an Auron solo here is I do want to see like what his damage looks like, right? And the only proper way to see that is to actually see characters with their auras, with BT effects, all that stuff. I don't want him by himself because he's not going to do as good in numbers. And for the showcase, I want to see what his numbers can look like. So we're going to keep ramping here with Aerith. We're done with the ramping. Perfect. Back to Core. So now we have the burst effect up, so we're going to go ahead and get Oath down on Auron, so he's got it. Perfect. And then Dorgan following up. The other reason why melee damage dealers in this team comp is important because they synergize with Auron's FR. So I am going to feature Auron's FR here as well. Now you can use Auron with other damage types. You just might want to lead with a different FR, right? So with Auron, he does start with like a free skill, like he gets like double turns right away, right? So what I'll do is we'll just pop the EX right away just because we've got it. I usually like to open with the EX when a character has it. His LD you will want to hit like early on as well. He starts with his LD buffs, but they're like lower turn count. And you want to make sure that you get it upgraded with the LD to get the higher turn count. So with one of his first 2 skills, I would use the LD, right? So let's talk about the EX because I just pressed it. So the EX is Dragon Fang. It's an AoE split HP attack. It does delay the enemy's 1 turn. So like if you're really set up for countering, you may not want to hit it as much actually. But that's fine. We got a little delay there. It does do a physical attack up. And then that does do the melee imperil on the enemies, right? Now what I'm going to do with Auron, which is once again not traditional, but I am just going to go into his full burst phase here, I think. And what we'll do is I will throw Raijin down too. Not that Auron probably doesn't really need Raijin, but in this fight, I know that like beast on the left side, he can like confuse you. So if he confuses Auron, it's going to like really wreck things, and Raijin's going to make sure he doesn't do that. So now we're going to go and just do a full burst phase, and that way I can just go through the kit, and then we'll just go into it and let the countering go crazy. We'll get the FR, we'll do all that stuff, right? All right, so let's go into burst phase. By the way, his EX did like 1.2 mil AoE, which I'd say is pretty typical damage. The other thing keep in mind is I don't have Dorgan's BT, so we are going to operate under one less BT aura here, which is fine. So let's go ahead and hit the LD. We'll open with that, because this is normally one of the first two buttons you're going to press anyways. This is called Tornado. All right, so about a mil AoE, right? And once again, tank characters, their on-turn damage isn't that crazy, but with his BT effect, he is going to get some good on-turn damage. We'll talk about that. So Tornado does an AoE, does the AoE damage you saw there. It does ignore defense, which is really good. Like ignoring defense, we see it with Beatrix. Ignore defense can be very powerful to help you get the most out of these attacks. And he does get a free ability use on his next turn. He's going to get a buff called Time to Shape Your Stories for 12 turns. Now, this is one of the more important buffs, right? So it gives him HP regen, HP damage up, brave damage taken down. So he takes 80% less brave damage. So he's probably going to be taking ones. Okay, overflow stolen up. He gets last stand. So that means as long as his health is above 50% and he would take lethal damage, he'll still live with 1 HP. He does gets brave gain in between his HP dumps with this. And then when attacking a debuffed enemy, it's brave damage up and HP damage up, and it enables his counters. So this buff is like the single most important thing on him. And the thing is, he gets it for 6 turns at quest start, but when you use the LD, it goes up to 12 turns. So that's why you usually want to hit it early just to know that you've got it. You don't want that to ever fall off, right? Now, the other thing that it's going to do is he's going to give a buff called Sentinel to the allies. That's just going to basically make it so that Auron will cover them. So, and it's also going to be a defense 80%. It's going to be HP regen and brave damage taken down 30%. So, basically with this setup, Auron and his allies all have brave damage taken down. Auron gets way more than the allies do, and they've all got HP regen. So while he doesn't directly have like a burst heal, he does actually heal your party, which is a really nice synergy to have on a tank, right? Especially a counter tank. We saw with Rubicante, we actually gave him a C-slot sphere to give him healing, and it makes such a huge difference for him, right? So that's really, really awesome that we've got that. And then this also does a couple of debuffs on the enemy. So it's going to give him the melee resist down, and it's going to do a debuff called full break. And this is the really good one I talked about with the call. But with Auron in the party, we get the full version of it, right? So HP damage taken up 30% to the enemies. Melee and brave damage, or melee brave damage taken up 40% to the enemies. And then brave and HP damage minus 30% to the enemy. So very, very good, right? So Auron now, we got more things to show. I guess we could do his AA. This is weak damage up crush. This is one of these damaging AA, so sure, we'll just do it to see it. Not very good damage, right? But, let me just find it really quick. It does do attack and brave damage limit up, and then weakness brave damage up for 4 turns. So it is worth it to get the buffs. It is something you could use like on your free skill use, definitely, for sure, right? Let's go ahead and hit Banishing Blade. This is the 15 CP attack. Alright, so about a mil, which that's solid. Once again, it's going to be very, I would say, average to like low average damage we're seeing from him on turn, which you'd expect from a tank, right? He does get a buff called Bushido from this, and it does do an eye brave down and a max brave down on the enemies. Bushido is attack and max brave 40% up. Now, the thing you want to keep in mind about Banishing Blade is it does have high turn rate, which you may actually not want to use on Auron. So, as long as that buff is upkept, you might want to avoid pressing that button because you might not want Auron jumping up turns, right? Let's go ahead and hit Purgatory. Yeah, 750k, and that was with core. So yeah, very kind of weak damage on turn, right? So Purgatory, he gets the Bushido buff. He gets a speed up and then melee resist down on the enemies. And then the EX, which we saw earlier. This one does delay the enemies 1 turn, so depending on your situation, you may want to avoid pressing that button. It's okay in this fight, because I know Ultimisia is going to get aggressive and like jump turns or whatever, but yeah, so you might have to be a little bit strategic about what you're pressing, because like, if you're deep in a force time and you want the enemies to take turns, I would maybe avoid pressing Banishing Blade and avoid pressing the EX. And try to press other buttons just to give the enemies more turns. Sure, we'll do the FR attack. We'll talk about the FR conditions when we actually do it later on. And he's partnering with Gabranth. Okay, 2 mil, so very standard force damage, right? So yeah, I would say his on-turn damage for everything we've seen, it's pretty much average to like just below average, I would say. Now, his BT effect is going to give him some nice on-turn damage. Oh, and we got the Auron Jekt Braska combo. We got the triple combo here. Wow. Nice. I'm sure FF10 fans are loving that, by the way. All right, well, let's talk about what his BT does. I just want to watch really quick because Ultimisia, I don't remember if she's going to jump turns yet. Probably when we hit her threshold. But let's talk about the BT because this is pretty important for him. So it did the big damage there, which I would say is pretty standard BT damage. It is a 6-turn burst effect, which doesn't seem very long, but he's the type of character that is kind of slower. You just let him sit back and let the enemies attack, right? It enables a special HP attack called Soar, and this is going to be a 7 HP dumping attack. So what happens is he doesn't always have it. It's every 3 times Auron attacks, he'll build up a use of it, right? So, but the idea is he should be countering a lot, and ideally he would counter 3 times before each of his turns, hopefully, and then you could do this every turn provided he counters at least 3 times. And that's going to be Brave damage up, Brave damage limit up, HP damage up, and HP damage limit up. Those are the pretty standard Brave auras, right? So let's go ahead, let's just kind of continue on, and let's see what happens in the rest of this fight. I don't think I want to use, no, we'll just hit this. And we're just going to have to let the fight kind of naturally go, and then we just want to get to force as we get to it. But as soon as we hit force, we're going to hit Auron's force. We took a big jump right there, which is very good. So Auron now, we can kind of just, once again, go around and press buttons. We might avoid Banishing Blade because we don't want to jump turns, right? And actually, in this instance, it doesn't. So sure, we'll do this. We'll get the break. Have Dorgan follow up. It'd be nice to get into FR before Ultimisia starts going crazy, but I think she's going to get there first. Sure, let's go ahead and do this. I just kind of ended up in a weird situation where I got like a million turns. Sure, let's hit Lion's Roar because he needs his Oath on. And then on Core's next turn, we'll get it set up on Dorgan so that all the characters will have it. And then we'll really be going crazy once we get set up here. All right, and then Auron, I mean, we've just got random buttons we can press here. I don't need the BT effect. Oh, we can do the force. Perfect. Where it's time. Good. We can do the force. So yeah, let's go ahead and hit it. This is called Waves of Treachery. We'll just watch it again, get the damage here. Yeah, with Gabranth. So Waves of Treachery is going to be an AoE attack. It is going to put full break and melee resist down. So the same 2 debuffs that the LD does. And then the HP conditions are this. On turn, if you attack a debuffed target, it's 30%, which he's a debuffer, so you're going to get that. We got to watch. Okay, I'm going to pause for a minute. We got to watch Ultimisia go crazy, and watch what's going to start to ensue here. We're going to see numbers, okay? So we got 5% off turn there. Core, another 5% off turn, right? We get a bunch of these small ticks. Okay, yep, she's going to see. Now this is what we want to see now. Here's Auron countering up. 700k on a counter at 153. 15% from Auron. Dorgan coming in now. Dorgan should be getting 5%. Yep. So we've set up a team where we're kind of going crazy and getting all that. So let's explain what's going on here. So on turn, if we attack a debuff target, 30%. That's free and easy. Everybody's going to get that. Then if you deal weapon weakness damage, and this counts for on turn or off turn, it's 5%. So that's why we saw Core and Dorgan getting 5% off turn ticks, because they dealt weapon weakness damage because they're melee attackers and Auron has melee resist down. But Auron gets 15% off turn. So every Auron counter, it's 3 times as strong as theirs. And then when an enemy ends their turn, you just get another 20%. So this is definitely an FR that's built for the enemies taking a lot of turns. So now with Dorgan, sure, let's Echo. I mean, why not, right? We're just going to Echo when we get stuff on turn. This is why Echo is really important too for this, because when we actually do get turns, then we're not actually putting the gauge down. Now, he did do delay on that, but once again, Ultimisia likes to jump turns anyways. Dorgan's going to be like breaking like a madman. I guess Dorgan, I mean, any off-turn character, right? Like, you're going to get breaks like this. What's really nice is there are some fights where the bosses have frame turns and you're not going to break them back, but this is just kind of how it goes. Let me just check. Did Auron lose? Okay, we're going to refresh Auron's Oath because we did a burst phase. We burned a bunch of it. And then on Core's next turn, we'll finally get it on Dorgan. So yeah, 43% on turn, not too bad. And then Dorgan off turn, getting small ticks. Auron, sure, we'll do an Echo right away. Let's see, what's Auron going to get on turn here? We'll see what he gets on turn. Oh, I'm an idiot. Well, actually, I may not have earned it yet, but we got to do a special HP plus attack, right? So we don't want to forget about that. I haven't been keeping track of if we've attacked 3 times yet, but we probably have. Or no, I can see his BT's at 2 stacks, so we got to get another one in. Okay, so when the enemies start to take a bunch of attacks here, we're not going to use the Echo here, because I want the enemies to actually, like... well, is this going to instant break? It does. Yeah, let me just do this. I want to try to get into some enemy turns here. Dorgan, I suppose, because he's all like anti-break, might not be the best, actually. I just wanted him because he was off-turn melee. But yeah, he does specialize in breaking, and in turn is going to be pushing the enemies back a lot, which we actually don't want. So let's go ahead and get Dorgan. So just know this isn't the optimal setup. What I'll probably do is I'm going to make a separate video of just maybe Auron soloing this fight. Because it's just like with Rubicante, right? Like, they typically operate better just solo anyways. Or, like, just them with Reno because of what Reno does. Alright, so now let's see some things to happen here. Some things should be happening here for sure. And then Auron, he will for sure. Yeah, look at all these ticks we're getting off turn. Yep, and then she's going to do this. And then Auron's going to finally get another counter here. Yep, and there's 20% for the enemy taking a turn. Auron with the big counter, 2 mil. More build-up. Yep, cut and turn order. And we'll see. I haven't actually looked at the event they dropped for Auron yet. Whatever they dropped, it's probably soloable by him, so I might do that too. Or maybe I'll just do that. But we'll try to get a Auron solo video out. Alright, Ultimacy attack. You can see here, though, like, you get a lot out of a force time, right? When they're doing all this off turn. There we go. Okay, Auron up to the front. Let's get this special HP attack in here. He's restacked it a bunch, actually. So hold on, let's go up here. Yeah, this is called Sword. Yeah, he's building up. He's got 2 skill uses of it. So we've been building it up. So every 3 attacks, he just gets another skill use of it. So it's not like you have to earn it and then use it and then earn it and then use it. He'll just build them up. So let's go ahead and pop this. This should be pretty good on-turn damage for him. So at 563%. Oh, wow. Here we go. Yeah, like 10 mil. Like, that's pretty good for, like, an off-turn tank. We'll take that. That means he'd be doing, like, 20-something mil on turn at, like, a full gauge. Maybe 25, 30. That's pretty good. And that was, like, AoE damage. That's really good. Because this is what they're meant to do. It's all this off-turn stuff. Right? Like, we're not even going to be able to finish this force time. That's typically how this works. If you get into a really nice aggressive fight, like, they will just kill themselves so fast. And like I said, this is why Echo is so key, because then when you do get turns, you can just Echo and like keep your force going even longer. So let's go ahead and sure, let's just hit this because I don't want to break her. She should steal turns. I think we just hit a threshold. Yeah, cut and turn order, please. Please do it, Ultimecia, please. But yeah, you can see we're very quickly approaching like a full gauge, and we still have 5 turns left, and we haven't really echoed that much. But yeah, this is definitely like a different type of playstyle, right? So if you kind of like this more passive playstyle, you can, I mean, this is why characters like Auron were good even without like their BTFR and stuff, because like, you see how this counter damage builds up. You just have to have the right FR to do it. So there you go. That fight got absolutely destroyed. Once we kind of got cooking there a little bit, it definitely worked out. And once again, I think Dorgan was a little anti-synergistic there, but because he did so much breaking. But he's, you know, it was off-turn melee. That was kind of the theme of the video. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think of Auron. I look forward to a couple more Auron videos coming out very soon. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.